Name's Jake Harlan. Been running loads out of Colorado for most of my life. You could be old. Out here, time don't mean much if you ain't learning. Thing is, folks think miles and years make you bulletproof, like the road gives out medals. Truth is, you can drive 20 years clean, and then one bad minute changes how you see every goddamn mile after. That's what happened to me, not even a year back, out on US 50. They call it the loneliest road in America. Thought I knew what lonely meant. Turns out I didn't. I was hauling replacement HVAC units for a commercial refurb job in Sacramento. Picked up the load just east of Aurora. Dispatch had me routed through US 50 to shave off time and avoid that I-70 construction mess. Weather was dry, engine was humming. I'd done this run enough to not think twice. The truck, the 19 Cascadia with 800K on the clock, still had decent pull. Cruise held steady at 62, fuel was full, DEF topped off, AC blowing cold. I was light enough not to worry about grades. No red flags. That stretch through Nevada, flat as hell, sun like a heat lamp. Some folks hate it. I like the quiet. No idiots riding your ass, no state troopers every 10 miles looking to make quota. Just a 2-lane ribbon in your thoughts. I was running solo, so I had the CB turned low and a podcast humming. Usual stuff, crime junkies talking about a case in Oregon. Nothing stuck out. Just before 11:30 in the morning, I saw it. Up ahead, maybe half a mile, there was this old RV pulled off on the right. Beige and brown stripe, one of those 80s Winnebagos. Hazards blinking. Now, that's not rare. You see plenty of overheats and busted belts out here. You pull off to the side, throw on blinkers, wait for a tow. Standard drill. But something about the way it was angled caught my eye. Not fully off the shoulder, more like staged. Hard to explain. Like it wanted to be seen. I passed it slow, glanced in the mirror. There was a guy standing behind it, leaning with his hand on his knee. Looked like he was hurt, limped a little. He saw me look and gave a quick wave. Not desperate, just polite. The kind of wave you give when you don't want to spook someone. I kept driving for maybe another half mile, then slowed. Truckers help each other out, or we used to. I've had my own radiator crack outside Grand Junction. Waited 4 hours till some guy named Marty stopped and gave me a gallon of water, paid it forward. That's how it works, or used to. So I pulled into a wide turnout just ahead and hit the flashers. Killed the cruise, popped open my door and stepped down slow, boots hitting gravel like usual. Heat hit me like a slap. I left the truck running. I always do unless I'm staying long. That engine's my heartbeat out here. Grabbed a bottle of water and walked back. He was limping toward me by then. Mid-40s, maybe. Cargo shorts, ball cap, gray goatee. Looked like someone's uncle. Not a tweaker, not strung out. Just looked regular. "Appreciate you stopping, man," he said, breathing heavy. "I think my water pump's shot. Started steaming, then died on me." I handed him the water. "You got anyone coming? Tow or anything?" He shook his head. "No signal. I tried a few miles back. Bars just dropped. You got a CB or something? Maybe shoot a message?" I nodded. "Got a CB, but range out here's spotty. Let me try." I turned a bit, about to head back when he said, "Hey, if you got tools, I might be able to patch it enough to limp to Ely. Just something to tighten the clamps." Now, I got a rule about tools. I don't lend them unless I'm standing right there. Too many end up missing. But I figured, hell, what's the worst? So I said, "Yeah, I got a set. Give me a sec." That's when I noticed the other two. One was leaning against the RV like he'd been there the whole time. Tall, lean, jeans and a faded tee. The other was crouched by the passenger side, maybe messing with something. I couldn't tell. They weren't talking, just standing there, looking. "Your buddies?" I asked, keeping my voice light. "Yeah," the first guy said. "They're helping me figure it out." But they weren't doing shit. Not under the hood, not checking hoses.
Nothing. My gut pulled tight. Not a big thing, just enough to make my skin itch. Something wasn't clicking. And the RV, it wasn't even warm. I was close enough now to feel the front grill. No heat, no hiss, no smell of coolant. I nodded like I bought the story, took a step back. All right, let me grab the box. I moved slow, casual, back toward my truck. Heart started thumping a little. I didn't want to run. That makes things worse. Just acted like I'd done this 100 times, which I had, only this wasn't like the others. One of the other guys started walking too. Not fast, just following. No reason. No tool belt, no jug, no question. Just following. I could hear his boots on the gravel behind me. That's when I knew. This wasn't about a busted RV. When I got to the rig, I kept one hand on the door handle and the other on the step rail. Didn't turn around. "I'll grab that wrench set," I said loud, like it was normal. "Be right out." He didn't answer. Now, I don't carry a gun, not allowed in most shippers, and I haul cross-state too much to mess with permits, but I do keep a tire iron right behind the driver's seat. Easy reach, just in case, and I've only had to grab it once before, to fend off a feral dog up near Twin Falls. But this time, I didn't hesitate. I cracked the door, slid it open just wide enough to squeeze in. Hand went straight to the iron, slid it low behind my leg, just out of view. Looked in the mirror, the guy had stopped a few feet back. Not smiling, not saying a word, just standing there.
Like I'd stepped into something I couldn't quite see the shape of yet. I looked back down the road. The RV still had blinkers on, like some kind of bad stage play. The guy I gave water to, he was watching me from a few yards off. That polite smile was gone. Now he looked bored. That's the part that stuck with me later. He wasn't mad or desperate or even trying to fix the act. He looked like a man waiting for the next bus, and mine had just pulled away. I sat in the cab a good minute, maybe more, just watching through the side mirror. The guy I gave water to had drifted back toward the RV, but he wasn't in any hurry, just wandering, arms hanging loose at his sides like he didn't have anywhere better to be. The tall one stayed put, leaning against the rear bumper. He lit a cigarette, took a long drag, eyes still on my truck like he was waiting to see what I'd do next. The third one, the quiet one, crouched by the side, had disappeared from view altogether. I keyed the CB, even though I knew it was pointless. "Breaker 19, this is Lone Rig, westbound on 50, about 30 out of Ely. Anyone got ears?" Static. Not even the usual crackle. I tried again, switched channels. Nothing. That stretch, man. No cell, no CB, no nothing. You might as well be driving on the moon. I wasn't panicked, not yet, but my stomach had that slow turn to it, like right before you realize the burrito you ate might have been a mistake. I set the tire iron on the floor and rested my hand on it, just in case. Then, out of nowhere, the quiet one popped up again, walked out from the far side of the RV like he'd done a lap around the whole thing. He didn't look over, just took up position on the driver's side. Still no words, still no tools, no hood up, no steam. Just three grown men standing around a broken RV with nothing to fix and no real interest in getting it fixed. That's when the questions started creeping in. What's the play here? They gonna try to jack me? 3-on-1 in the middle of nowhere? No signal? No witnesses? It's not hard to imagine how that could go. But they weren't making moves. No rush in the cab. No trying to block me in. It was more like they were waiting me out. I cracked the window halfway. The air outside was dry and baked, smelled like hot dust and sage. "You fellas good?" I called out. The tall one just shrugged, took another drag. "Yeah, we're good," he said, like it was my problem now. The guy I gave water to raised the bottle like a toast and said, "Thanks again, brother. You're solid." It was off. Too casual, like they were running a play they'd practiced. But maybe it wasn't about me, not yet. Maybe they were waiting for someone else to pull in, someone greener, someone dumber.
I've seen setups like that before, mostly in truck stops back east. Get a guy to stop, buddy shows up out of nowhere, fake fight, fake help, wallet gone. But this felt different. Out here, there's no easy exit if it goes bad.
I threw the rig in gear, foot on the brake. Didn't want to bolt, didn't want to spook him. Just rolled forward, nice and easy, blinker still on, like I was just repositioning it. The tall guy didn't move. Neither did the one with the bottle. But I could feel him watching. That kind of watching that don't blink. Pulled out slow, tires crunching gravel. Took the turnout ramp back onto the main lane. My eyes didn't leave the mirrors. The RV stayed where it was. Nobody waved this time. A few miles down the line, I started second-guessing myself. Maybe it really was just a busted RV, and I was letting the desert mess with my head. Heat does that. Cooks your brain until you start seeing ghosts. But that setup didn't smell right. Not just the no tools thing. The vibe. The timing. The fact that all three looked like they weren't new to the act. Pulled off at a little gravel patch near a mile marker. Checked my phone again. Still dead. Not even an SOS bar. I keep a backup battery pack in the glove box. Plugged it in. Waited. Nothing. Tried the GPS screen. Map froze. Still had me 30 miles back. I hadn't noticed it lock up. Damn thing looked like it was working, just stopped refreshing. That's when the isolation really hit. I don't usually mind being alone. Most drivers don't. That's why we do this. Less people, less noise. But out there, with no signal and the RV disappearing in my rear view, I felt it different. Like the kind of alone where you don't get found if something goes sideways. No sheriff cruising by, no family checking in, no truckers on Channel 19. Just road, dust, and God, if he's listening. I waited there maybe 10 minutes. Just sipped water, kept the engine running. Nobody else passed by. Not one car or rig. That's US 50 for you. Sometimes you can go 30, 40 minutes without seeing another soul. Eventually, I put her back in drive and rolled on. Kept an eye on every turnout for the next hour. Saw a few more cars, a Jeep, some little Hyundai with a roof box. Nothing stopped, nothing sketchy. But the whole way I had this low buzz in my chest, like a warning that hadn't finished speaking yet. And here's the kicker. Later that day, I got to Fallon, found a truck stop with signal, pulled in and parked. First thing I did was check the state patrol reports online, see if there was a breakdown logged or any call-outs near mile 132. Nothing. Not a single ticket, not a tow, not even a mention. Like that RV was never there. When I hit Ely, I stopped at that little Sinclair with the faded green awning and the busted air machine out front. It ain't much. 2 pumps, single restroom with a door that sticks, and a cooler full of jerky and Gatorade. But they've got coffee that doesn't taste like it was brewed in the Reagan era, and the old guy behind the counter, Frank, knows enough to mind his business unless you ask. I pulled in, shut down, and just sat there a second. Let the hum of the engine settle out of my chest. Even in town, I kept looking in the mirrors like someone might have followed. I knew better, but still. Inside, I grabbed a bottle of water and one of those chicken salad triangles they keep in the cooler. Frank gave me the usual nod. I asked if he'd heard about any RV trouble on 50, maybe a busted rig east of town. He didn't even look up from his crossword. None today, he said. Just the usual folks with overheated Civics and worn-out tires. I said this one looked more like a setup. 3 guys, no real tools, no actual problem. He gave a little grunt, kept scribbling. Well, he said, some folks break down, some folks look broke down. Hard to tell till you stop. That was it. That was the whole damn sermon. I ate in the cab. Didn't even kill the idol. Just chewed that sandwich with the door locked and the AC running. Kept thinking about how casual they'd been. No threats, no weapons, no direct ask.
Just this slow build of pressure, like they were seeing how close they could get to something without touching it. And the weirdest part? They didn't look like they were desperate. Not like people who needed help or money. More like guys doing a job. I left Ely around 3, fueled up, and took the 50 west again. Had about 300 miles left before my drop in Sacramento. Dispatch wasn't asking questions, and I wasn't volunteering any. I kept driving, but that buzz in my chest hadn't gone anywhere. If anything, it was louder now. Like I'd brushed up against something I shouldn't have, and the air knew it. About an hour out of Ely, I stopped again just to piss and stretch. No service station, just a dirt turnout with some old fence posts and sagebrush. While I was standing there, I saw fresh tire tracks cutting into the gravel. Wide tread, double rear marks, like someone pulled a dually or a van in, maybe a day or two before. Could have been anyone, but the way they curled off into a dry wash and didn't come back out gave me a chill. There's 1,000 places out here where a rig could vanish. No cameras, no curious neighbors, just dust and silence. Later, I got back on and pushed through until Fallon, right before sunset. I was rolling slow, tired, but still wired. That's when I saw him again. Not all 3, just one. The guy with the bottle. Same ball cap, same cargo shorts, leaning against a different RV now. This one newer, white with blue stripes. Parked crooked just off the highway near an abandoned motel. Blinkers off this time, just sitting there. I passed him doing about 50. He didn't wave, didn't move, just watched me go by. I gripped the wheel tighter than I meant to. My first instinct was to floor it and not look back, but instead I eased off and pulled into a diner lot up the road. Killed the engine, sat in silence. I watched the mirror for 10 full minutes. Nothing. No RV, no dust trail, no one followed. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling. Not fear exactly. More like I'd been tagged.
Like that quiet little standoff back near the first turnout wasn't the end of it. Just part of something bigger. I didn't have facts, no hard proof. Just a feeling that this wasn't random. I'd gotten involved, even if all I did was hand over a bottle of water and keep moving. And here's where it got real complicated. Next morning, I made the drop in Sacramento, no problem. Yard guy signed a bill, I backed out clean. Headed over to a truck wash, then got coffee at a chain place near the yard. And while I'm standing in line, some guy behind me says, "You run 50 yesterday?" I turned. Looked like another driver. Clean shirt, day cab keys on his belt. Didn't recognize him. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" He scratched his cheek. "You see an old RV east of Ely? Beige, guys sitting around?" Now that hit hard. My stomach sank. "Yeah," I said slow. "Why, you get stopped?" He gave a half laugh, like someone telling a story that stopped being funny halfway through. "Nah, my buddy did though, a couple weeks back. They flagged him down, said they needed help. While he's talking to one guy, the other two pop his side box and grab tools, a fuel can, his phone charger, even his lunch cooler. Didn't notice till he was 50 miles down the road. No plates on the RV either. Troopers couldn't do much." I didn't answer right away, just nodded, like it confirmed what I already knew but hadn't wanted to say out loud. "Word is they move every few days," he went on. "Never ask for much, just enough to make it not worth calling in. Kinda smart in a way." I looked him square in the eye. "That's not smart, that's practiced." He shrugged. "Ain't wrong." We both took our coffees and went our separate ways. I didn't ask his name, he didn't ask mine. Just two drivers with the same story, a few weeks apart, telling each other what nobody else was saying. That there's folks out there on the road who ain't robbers, not in the classic sense. They're opportunists. They wait, they watch, and they test the fence until they find a spot that gives. And if you're lucky, all they take is a few gallons of diesel or a wrench set. If you ain't lucky, well, I guess that's what I was trying to figure out. How lucky I really was.
I took a short run up to Redding after Sacramento, dropped off a load of dry goods at a distribution center, and dead-headed down to Stockton for a reefer pickup headed back east. Dispatch offered me the same route, 50 across Nevada, straight shot, less mountain time, fewer scale houses. I told him I'd think about it. Truth was, I already knew I wasn't going back that way so soon. I told myself it was because of fuel prices or time of day traffic in Fallon. Deep down, I didn't want to see that stretch again so soon. Not until I had a better read on what the hell I'd been pulled into. Still, couldn't let it eat me. Gotta work. So I took I-80 this time. More traffic, more eyes. I don't like it, but it felt safer. I figured the switch had helped clear my head. It didn't.
Somewhere between Reno and Winnemucca, I found myself thinking about what would have happened if I had gotten out. If I had opened that side box. If I had walked just a few more steps toward that RV. I kept seeing their faces. Not angry, not pushy, just patient. And that's what really messed with me. They were patient, like men who already knew how the scene ended. Like I was just another part of the script. Pulled into a rest area off 80 that night, halfway through Nevada. Not a truck stop, just one of those pull-offs with 2 toilets and a dog walking patch. Place was dead quiet. One other rig, some flatbed with Oregon plates. I parked nose out, kept the curtain cracked, and left the CB on low. Couldn't sleep. Every noise made me twitch. The wind knocking branches, the reefer kicking on, even the buzz of the cabin light. I kept going over what I'd do different next time. Run faster, talk less, not stop at all. But none of it felt like a fix. Just different ways to lose slower. Next morning, I fueled up outside Elko and pulled into a mom-and-pop diner just off the interstate. Place called Mary's Table. Been there before. Good bacon, slow service. I was halfway through my eggs when this guy slides into the booth across from me without asking. Wore a vest with an old logistics logo I didn't recognize. Face sunburned raw, hands like leather. He looked like someone who'd lived in his truck more than he lived in a house. He didn't smile, just stared like he already knew what I'd seen. "You saw him too, didn't you?" he said, voice low and dry. Not a whisper, just flat. I didn't answer right away. I didn't have to. He nodded like that was my answer. "Was it the beige RV or the white one?" "Beige first, then white." He nodded again, picked up a sugar packet and rolled it between his fingers. "They run that game every summer. Been hearing about it since 2020. Only pops up on the long hauls. Middle of nowhere. Places where you gotta decide real quick whether you're the guy who stops or the guy who keeps driving. And either way, they learn something about you." I leaned back. "You ever stop?" He said, "Once. Didn't get out. Same vibe. No tools, no real ask. Just that hanging tension." I drove off. Next day, my side box was popped at a truck stop outside Ely. Nothing major gone, just little stuff. Tools, boots, spare gloves, like a tax for not playing along. That stuck with me. "You think they followed you?" He smirked. "I think they didn't have to. I think they know how truckers move. Same roads, same stops. They don't need to chase you. You'll come back through sooner or later." We sat in silence for a bit. The waitress came by, topped off our coffee, didn't even blink at the fact this stranger was now sitting with me, like it was normal. Out here, it kinda is. "You report it?" He smirked. "To who? Local sheriff? State patrol? They'll say it's a civil matter unless someone gets hurt. And no one's gotten hurt. Not yet. It's small losses. Just enough to keep you from making a stink. I nodded. You think they're locals? He shook his head. Nope, they're not from anywhere. They're just road people, same as us, only they ain't hauling freight. They're hauling time, stacking situations. I think they're trying to figure out how far they can go without pushing too far. That line chilled me. Stacking situations? Yeah, they're learning, testing. One day, they might not stop at taking boots. I didn't finish my food. Lost my appetite. We paid separate and walked out together. His rig was older, W900, sun-faded paint, vinyl peeling off the door. As he climbed in, he said, "You were lucky. Most guys don't even realize it was a setup until hours later. By then, it's just a story they're not sure how to tell." I watched him pull out, taillights dimming in the sun. Sat there a minute before starting up. He was right. I hadn't said anything to anyone official, not even dispatch. Just that random driver at the coffee place and now him. And yet somehow it felt like everyone out here knew, like it was this quiet rumor that never made it to paper, never hit the radio, only passed from truck to truck, diner to diner, one booth at a time. That night, I parked in Battle Mountain and locked everything twice. Didn't even go in for food, just ate a can of chili and a sleeper and left the dumb light off. Watched shadows play across the lot from passing headlights. Every time a van or RV rolled by, my pulse jumped. And I ain't ashamed to say it. When the trust goes, it don't come back easy. I used to believe in helping folks, that if someone waved you down on an empty highway, you at least slowed to see what's wrong. Now I look for what's missing. No hood up, no steam, no tools, no story. Just keep moving. Still doesn't feel right, though. Feels like I'm failing some old rule of the road. But I'd rather be wrong in driving than right and sitting in a ditch, wondering how it all flipped on me. The next time I saw a trooper, I flagged him. Not something I normally do. Most of them don't have time for stories that don't end in the crash or a crime. This guy was parked just off the road near Austin, sitting in the shade of his cruiser like he had nowhere to be. I eased over, parked on the shoulder, climbed down, and walked up slow, hands visible. He watched me approach but didn't move. Young guy, maybe early 30s. Clean uniform, wraparound shades, cruiser humming under him like it was half asleep. I said, "You got a minute?" He nodded, leaned forward. "What's up?" I told him straight. No drama, no guessing. Just laid it out. The RV, the guys, the setup that didn't feel right. I left out the part where I had a tire iron in my hand and locked myself in like a spooked rookie, but I gave him the meat of it. When I got to the part about the second RV near Fallon, he saw his mouth tighten just slightly, like I'd said something he'd heard before. He let me finish, then leaned back in his seat.
"Beige and brown?" he asked. First one was, second was white with blue stripes. Different rig. Same guy, though. He exhaled slow. "Yeah, we've had a few reports like that. All vague, no license plate, no threat, no clear theft. Just tension, like they're testing people." I felt relief and frustration at the same time. "So it's not just me?" "No," he said. "We've taken maybe 6 or 7 calls in the last 2 years. All same stretch of highway, usually east of Ely, sometimes as far west as Silver Springs. Always an RV, always more than one guy. They wave down a driver, act polite, ask for tools or water. Sometimes stuff goes missing later, but not always, not enough to build a case. So what do you do about it?" He gave a dry chuckle. "What can we do? No names, no plate. They move around. Half the time, by the time we get the call, they're long gone. And the ones that do stop, they don't stay stopped. They drift, like they're watching traffic more than waiting for help." I leaned against the cruiser, arms crossed. "You think it's just thieves or something more organized?" He shrugged. "We don't know. Could be guys out of work just looking for easy targets. Could be a crew that learned the sweet spot. Not too dangerous to get hunted, not too harmless to get ignored. Gray zone. Highway's full of those." We stood there a moment, looking down the empty stretch of road. No cars in sight, just dust trails and heat shimmer. He said, "My advice? Don't stop. Not unless you see a kid or a woman or someone bleeding. And even then, stay in the cab, talk through the window, and keep rolling unless it's life or death." I nodded. That's where I'm at. He looked at my truck, then back at me. "You got cameras on that rig?" "Dash cam, yeah, nothing outside." He reached into his console, pulled out a business card. "If you see him again and you can get footage, clean footage, timestamp, full shot of the RV, send it to that email. Might not lead to charges, but it helps us track movement." I took the card, slid it into my wallet without looking. "Thanks." As I climbed back into the cab, I felt something I hadn't in a while. Not safety, not comfort, but recognition. Someone else out there saw it too. And they weren't pretending it was just a weird coincidence. That meant something. Later that night, I parked up at a chain truck stop near Fernley. One of those with a big lit sign and a row of dusty semis lined like tired horses. I walked inside, grabbed a coffee, sat in a booth near the window. There were 3 other drivers in the place, older guys, grizzled, faces like maps. I listened in a bit. They were talking about parts shortages and wait times on tire replacements, normal stuff. Then one of them, heavy-set guy in a Caterpillar jacket, mentioned something about a weird RV sitting outside Fallon the week before. He said, "Thing just sat there for hours. Guys milling around, no tools out, no repair going on, just standing."
Like they were waiting on something that never showed. Another guy said, "That stretch is cursed. Always has been. Too much space. Makes people weird." I didn't chime in. Just sipped my coffee and stared out the window at my rig. But it confirmed what I'd felt since the first moment I pulled off at that turnout. This wasn't just a one-time deal. This was a pattern. And it wasn't going to stop just because I drove a different route. On the way back east, I kept checking my mirrors more than usual. Any RV, any van, any car pulled off the side made my hands tighten on the wheel. Not fear, not quite, just readiness. A twitch that wouldn't leave. Somewhere near Wendover, I finally got a bar of signal and called a buddy of mine, Ray. He runs hauls out of Kansas City, does a lot of westbound freight. "You ever get flagged down on 50? I asked. Ray laughed. "Man, only by wildlife and the ghost of boredom." I gave him the short version, just enough to make him pause. He got quiet for a second, then said, "You serious?" "Dead." Muttered something under his breath, then said, "Last month I saw an RV pulled over just before the salt flats. Didn't stop, but the guy waved. Something didn't feel right. Thought I was imagining it. Now I don't know." We talked another 10 minutes, swapped stories, promised to keep each other in the loop if either of us saw something again. Before we hung up, Ray said, "Thing is, Jake, they ain't stealing much. Not tools, not really money, so why risk being out there every day just to grab a winch or two?" That question stuck in my brain like a nail in a tire. I didn't have an answer then. Still don't. But it made me realize something. Maybe it ain't about what they take. Maybe it's about what they see. Maybe they're watching how we react, what we do, how long it takes us to spook or snap or get wise. And if that's true, then the next time I see them, I ain't stopping, not even to roll my window down. A couple weeks after that, I was sitting at a Love's just outside Grand Junction, Colorado. Had a half hour left on my break, parked next to an old Kenworth with rust around the fenders and a busted sun visor hanging by one bolt. The sun was cooking the lot pretty good, but I had the AC running low, windows cracked. I was scrolling through my ELD, just killing time, when this guy knocks on my passenger side door. Didn't startle me, just surprised me. Didn't look like a beggar or a lot hustler, more like a tired driver with too much road in his rear view. I opened the passenger window halfway. "What's up?" He said, "You got 5 minutes? I heard you might know something about those RVs out on 50. I blanked. "Who told you that?"
Some guy over in Salina said a driver named Jake out of Denver had a run-in a month back. You Jake? I nodded slow. Yeah, I'm Jake. He looked around the lot like he was making sure no one was listening, and walked around and climbed up into the jump seat without asking.
Just settled in like he'd done it 100 times. I didn't say no. Something in his face told me this wasn't a small talk visit. I'm Ben, he said. Haul produce out of Fresno. Mostly westbound, but I run east once or twice a month. Last week I saw what I think you saw. I let him talk. He told me he was coming out of Ely at dusk. Light dropping fast. He saw an RV pulled off on a gravel patch. Guy standing outside it with jumper cables in his hand. Ben slowed, real slow, but didn't stop. As he rolled past, the guy looked straight at him, didn't wave, didn't smile. Just held the cables like bait. Said there were two others sitting in lawn chairs behind the rig like they were watching a damn movie. Ben kept going. Didn't stop till Fallon. That's not even the bad part, he said. I turned my head. There's more? He nodded. Next day, I was fueled up, parked in Lovelock for a nap. Woke up, walked around my trailer, just doing a look over. One of my straps was sliced halfway through. Not frayed, cut, clean. You think it was them? I don't know, but I hadn't stopped anywhere else long enough for someone to do that without me seeing it. And it didn't snap on the road, but it would have another 100 miles or so. I checked the rest, all looked untouched. We sat in silence for a beat. I didn't like where this was going. The idea that they weren't just watching now, maybe marking, maybe messing. Ben leaned forward. It's like they're not after stuff, they're after the reaction. Like they want to see what happens when things just go just a little off. That word again, reaction. That's what stuck with me since Fallon. Not theft, not damage, just pressure. Testing boundaries like a dog nudging a fence over and over, waiting for it to fall. I told Ben about the trooper I'd talked to, the other drivers, how none of us had any real proof, just weird moments in the same kind of silence. He nodded like he already knew all that, like it just confirmed what he'd felt on his own. He said, I talked to dispatch. Told him I won't run 50 anymore, not alone, not at night. They didn't push back. Guess I'm not the first. That made me sit up. They heard it too? He shrugged. Didn't say much, but they asked if I seen the blue striped RV. Didn't even flinch. That told me a lot. Way more than I liked. When dispatch knows about something and chooses not to log it, that means they've either heard enough to know better, or they figure it's not their problem. Either way, it means they've heard enough to know better and still send us out there. I thought about that all the way through Utah. Had a long, straight run across I-70 with plenty of time to chew on it. I remembered what that trooper said. Don't stop unless someone's bleeding. But even that felt loose now. What if next time it's a woman standing there? Or a kid? What do you do then? I started replaying the first time, back near Ely. I'd pulled over because of a limp and a wave. That's it.
Not a scream, not a wreck, not a real emergency. Just a well-timed act. They didn't threaten me. They didn't rob me. But they left a crack in my sense of what's normal on the road. And now every time I see someone pulled over, I don't see a driver in trouble. I see a scenario, a setup, a test. Next stop, I ran into a driver I knew from back in Missouri, Hank. Older guy, mostly pulls flatbed now. We caught up over coffee at a pilot east of Denver. I asked if he'd seen anything weird lately. He gave me that look, the one where a guy wants to talk but doesn't want to sound like a nut. I ran 53 weeks ago, he said, right after sunset, middle of nowhere. So a white van on the shoulder, hazard lights on, but no hood up. Just one guy sitting on the bumper, staring at the road. I slowed, but I kept moving. Checked my mirrors a mile later, and he was gone. Just gone. Like he'd never been there. Van, not RV? Yup. Different style, same feeling. I didn't like it.
felt watched. That's when I started to realize maybe this thing was spreading. Maybe it wasn't just one crew with one old RV. Maybe it was a method, a playbook, and others had started running it. And why not? It works. You get close to people without scaring them. You test responses. You harvest fear without drawing blood. It's clean. It's low risk. And it messes with your head in ways that last. That night, parked off a frontage road outside Lyman, I wrote down everything I remembered. The faces, the RV, the license area with no plate, the tone of voice, the sequence of things. I wrote it all down in a little notebook I keep under the mattress in the sleeper. Just in case I need to say it later, or in case someone else needs to read it. This ain't just about a couple tools or a cut strap. It's about erosion. Not the kind that eats away rock. The kind that eats away trust. One little piece at a time. I don't run US 50 anymore. Haven't touched it in 6 months. I know it's not cursed, and I know the odds of running into them again are probably low, but it's not about odds. It's about choice. I used to look at a map and pick the route with the least mountains, fewest way stations, least time on the clock. Now, I look for the roads with people, cell service, places where if I got out of my rig, I wouldn't feel like I was stepping into some dead zone no one would ever hear about. Dispatch offered me a load 2 weeks back. Light plastics out of Salt Lake, drop in Fresno. Route suggestion had me cutting across 50 again. I told them no. They asked why? I just said, can't do that road. Didn't argue, just reassigned it. Maybe they've heard enough stories by now that drivers refusing certain stretches doesn't even raise eyebrows anymore. Thing is, I didn't come out of that whole thing hurt. Didn't get robbed, didn't get jumped, didn't even lose a tool. But I lost something else. A piece of how I see this job. A piece of what I thought I understood about the road.
I used to believe the biggest danger out here was sleeping through your alarm or blowing a steer tire on a downgrade. But now I know. Real danger ain't loud. It don't come with sirens or brake lights. It comes quiet, slow, with a smile and a wave on an empty highway. That's what gets in your head. I used to roll through a town like Ely or Delta and nod at folks gassing up RVs. Never thought twice. Now I catch myself reading plates, watching for signs. No plate? My foot eases off the pedal. Busted tail light? I remember what kind of shoes the guy had on. It's not fear. It's just alert. Constant. Like I got a background program running in my brain now, watching everything. Even changed how I sleep. I used to crash out easy. Drop the curtain, fan on, done. Now I check the locks twice, set a wrench under the bunk, keep the front camera on. Not paranoid, just cautious. It's a small difference, but it lives in me now. Deep, quiet. I've told a few drivers, guys I trust. Most just nod, say, yeah, I heard something like that. No one's shocked. That's the funny part. It's like every guy who's been on the road long enough has had something. Maybe not an RV, maybe not out west, but something that didn't feel right. A fake breakdown, a too slow wave, a guy who watched him a little too long at a rest stop. It adds up, but no one puts it in the logbook. No one calls the law. What do you even say? Some guy didn't steal anything, but I felt wrong. That doesn't go on a report. And yet it's more real than most of the crap we do report. Last month I was hauling reefer out of Modesto. Long haul to Omaha. They had me route through I-80, which I've started favoring. More stations, more light, more company. I stopped outside Love and Lock for fuel. Same stop I'd been at when I heard that guy Ben talk about the sliced strap. I walked around my trailer twice, not because I thought I'd see anything, just because it felt wrong not to. And I'm not the only one changing.
I see more trucks now with cameras pointed every direction. Windshield, side mirrors, back of the cab. Guys installing motion lights on their trailers. Used to be overkill. Now it's smart. Truckers used to only worry about lot lizards and catalytic converter thieves. Now it's setups that don't even have a clear target. Just setups sitting there, waiting for you to bite. I don't tell people how to run. Ain't my place. Every driver's got their own rules. Some still stop when they see someone on the shoulder. Some don't. I don't anymore. And I hate that. But I'd hate it more if I got rolled over a fake limp in a polite tone. What gets me most is how normal it looked. Just a man standing next to a stalled-out RV. Nothing dramatic. No masks, no weapons. Just stillness. That's the part I remember the clearest. The quiet. How no one was in a hurry. Like it didn't matter if I stopped then or someone else stopped an hour later. The show would go on either way.
Sometimes I wonder how many of us have run into them and didn't even realize it. Maybe they didn't act because you weren't worth it. Maybe they were just scanning. Maybe they already had what they needed. That's the kind of thinking that'll drive a man crazy if he don't set a line somewhere. So that's what I did. My line is, I don't stop for shoulder vehicles unless I see sparks, blood, or fire. Cold? Yeah. But I'm still alive, still running. That's the game now. Stay smart. Stay moving. Had a new guy in a rest stop near Cheyenne ask me if I ever ran 50. Said he heard it was a ghost road. Pretty, fast, empty. I looked at him for a second and said, used to, don't anymore. He laughed, said, why not? Fuel savings alone make it worth it. I sipped my coffee. Ain't always about fuel. He asked me what it was about, but I didn't answer. Just climbed back in my rig and let the engine settle under me like a heartbeat. I wasn't going to explain. Some things ain't meant to be passed along in words. You feel it or you don't. You see it or you don't. But once you do, you don't ever unsee it. And me? I saw it. Clear as day. So I stay off 50 now. Not 'cause I'm scared. 'Cause I learned.